So you finally decided to try backcountry hiking for the first time. This is terrific news. You're in for a challenging and rewarding upgrade to your day hiking experience. But there are some additional considerations to keep in mind. So in today's video, we're going to go through the top 5 challenges that new hikers face. And more importantly, give you tips on how to solve them so that you can hit the trail with confidence. Stand by. Hey Hiking Nation, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you've got to this decision with the aid of my other video where we talked about the case for backcountry hiking in general. But in any event, the important thing is that you're here. So let's go ahead and launch into the challenges that all new hikers face. Let's start with time. Time can present a barrier to entry for new hikers because it takes a lot of time to backcountry hike. If you're a day hiker, you know that you can go out in an afternoon, get yourself in a nice hike, and then you go on home and life goes on. Backcountry hiking takes it to the next level in terms of time requirements. You have to plan your hike on the front end. You have to think through your equipment that you'll need, and oftentimes backcountry hiking requires travel and the logistics involved with that in terms of getting to trailhead. And once you're there, the multi-day hike itself. So when faced with this, a lot of people will say, well, it all sounds like a lot of fun, but I just don't have the time for that. And that's a fair comment. We all lead busy lives, and you have to decide for yourself how you're going to prioritize the time that you have available. What I would really like to focus on for purposes of today's video is the fact that time is fleeting. And once it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. And I think here's a story that illustrates that. The first time my hiking buddy and I went out to the Appalachian Trail for a multi-day section hike, we were coming towards the end of it, day 5 or 6 or so, I think, and came across a gentleman on a remote section of the trail sitting on a log. And it's clear that he had been there for a while because he had his pack open and had his stuff spread out around him quite a bit. And he was also clearly in distress. So we stopped to check on him and come to find out that he had recently had knee replacement surgery. We're talking about a gentleman in his late 60s. And his hardware failed. You could actually see the hardware from the prosthetic knee poking, not breaking the skin, but poking from the inside out through the skin. And it looked pretty gruesome. His leg was basically locked and he couldn't move it, and so there was no chance for him to walk anymore. So we called. Fortunately, we had cell service there, enough to get a call out to 911 and got some extraction help laid on for him. And then we sat there and talked with him for a while, and he was very depressed. He was upset because hiking the Appalachian Trail was something that him and his brother had talked about doing nearly their entire adult lives. And when they finally got around to the place where they thought they could do it, his brother only lasted about a day or so and left the trail. Just wasn't up to the challenge. He said his brother was actually older than he was at that point. So he decided to go on alone, which probably wasn't a good decision, you know, given his age, or even more specifically the situation with his knee. He thanked us for sitting with him, but he really wanted us to move on. It was clear that he wanted to be by himself. And we were hesitant to do that, but we knew that help had been dispatched, so we did walk on. And as we left him, you know, we chatted about it, and it was sad. It was sad for us to realize that this guy had wanted to do this his entire adult life, and for whatever reason just never got around to it until a point that he was just unable to actually do it. And so I think the key takeaway here is don't wait till it's too late. If this is the kind of thing you want to do it while you're young enough, while you're healthy enough, and you can actually enjoy it. So let's move on to talk about planning. We touched on planning just a second ago, but planning can be a significant barrier to entry for new hikers just because it seems overwhelming. You know, what kind of equipment do I buy? Where do I go? What do I do when I get there? Where can I park? Is water available? What kind of food do I carry? How far should I walk in a given day? You know, where should I look to camp? All these things, and when you put them together, it seems daunting. But fortunately, unlike time, which we can't solve for you, planning is something we can take one step at a time and make your progression gradual. So the number one recommendation is do what we call a shakeout ride or a shakeout hike. And this simply means pack up your gear as though you were going on a multi-day trip, but don't go any further than your backyard or a local campground or local state park that might have some walk-in camping. And what this allows you to do is get in there, get your pack on, make sure it feels okay, that it fits right. Walk a little bit to an area where you're going to set up camp. You'll get an opportunity to practice setting up your tent, using your sleep system, which is crucial. People respond differently to being outdoors in the conditions, and your sleep system has to be configured for you, your preferences. Using your cook system, cooking yourself a meal, sourcing water, that sort of thing. And what this does is it allows you to build confidence in more of a controlled setting. Another thing that I'll go ahead and mention at this point is facilities, or doing your business outside. This is a significant barrier for a lot of new hikers. You might even suggest it's the single biggest hang-up for people who just don't want to poop outside. And yeah, I get it. You know, it's not glamorous, but it is a fact of life, and you've got to do it if you're going to go where there aren't facilities, privies, outhouses, etc. So it's the kind of thing that you're just going to have to resolve to doing and go do it. And the one thing I will say about that is think through what is more sanitary. You know, digging your own hole out in the privacy of the woods where no one else is around and taking care of your business, or sitting on some nasty outhouse seat or the privies out some of these trails are absolutely disgusting. But honestly, I choose a hole. And so after you've done a shakeout ride or two and you're comfortable with your gear, now you can start planning an actual hike. Fortunately, in the modern landscape, we have the beauty of the internet. And there's hardly anywhere that you could envision going camping where there's not going to be information available on the internet, whether it's maps, lists of regulations that might apply, animal activity in the area, pretty much all the information you will need to make informed decisions about an area for hiking will be available on the internet, so you don't really have to worry about that. The last thing you want to happen is to get out there and determine that there are a bunch of variables you hadn't thought through, or ruin your hiking experience to such an extent that you may not go back again. And this happens. Shuttle drivers out on the Appalachian Trail, guys who make a living bringing people up and down the trail to various locations, or picking them up from the airport and bringing them to the trail. They'll tell you stories of hikers who abandon thousands of dollars worth of hiking gear on the side of the road and leave because they weren't ready for the experience of a multi-day hike on the Appalachian Trail. So don't be that guy or girl, and you don't have to be with all of the resources available to you these days. All right, let's next talk about fitness. Fitness is really important for obvious reasons for hikers. Now, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete. When you're out on the trail, you'll see people of all different shapes and sizes, and they all do quite well. But you should have a baseline level of fitness if you want to go out there and actually have a good time. If you don't have a a minimal sort of baseline level of fitness, and you get out there and you find yourself struggling, it's just not an enjoyable experience. So, and here's a quick story that highlights this. My hiking buddy and I recently did a Mammoth March. If you're not familiar with Mammoth March, they bill it as an adventure march. It's 20 miles, and you're supposed to complete it in under 8 hours. It's somewhat similar to Savage or the Spartan obstacle course races, if you've ever done one of those, only for hikers. And we got out there, and again, there were people of all shapes and sizes, and everyone was having a good time on the front end. But by the time we got to the last water point at mile 16, it looked like a triage hospital for a battle zone. There were people laid out everywhere. They had their socks off, moaning, popping blisters, wondering if they could go on anymore. And you know, we were just looking around and saying, wow, a lot of these folks don't look like they're having fun. I'm not sure they're going to be able to finish the last 4 miles. And it's not that he and I are world-class athletes. We're not. But what we do is train a lot, and we train specifically for hiking. If you're an athlete, a specific sport athlete, whether it's football, basketball, whatever, you train specifically for those sports. And hiking's no different. Really, there's 2 components to training for hiking. Number 1 is just pounding the ground. You've got to get out there and get mileage. Get mileage, you know, every day or every other day, whatever your time allows. You've just got to walk. And walking as a component of fitness is really making a comeback in the fitness guru communities. And so it's always been a great way to get fit and stay fit. And it's doing what the human body was designed to do. Your body was designed to move. It was designed to walk. So the first and most crucial component of training for hiking is just get your shoes on and get out there and get miles. But beyond that, if you really want to get to a baseline level of hiking fitness, you've got to add in the conditions that you're going to see when you get out there on multi-day hikes. And I'm talking about load, and I'm talking about terrain or elevation. And so when you're training, you need to train under load. Get yourself a weighted vest. There's all kinds of weighted vests available on Amazon. Or just get an old backpack and fill it with some weights or books or whatever you have. Whatever you can get to create load and get your body used to carrying that on your shoulders and your back will help you as you train for hiking. And then the second is elevation. Got to get some grade. Find some place that's got some hills and practice walking up and down those hills under load. And if you live in a flat area where you just don't have it, like my hiking buddy lives in Louisiana, not many hills in Louisiana, he goes to his gym and puts the treadmill on grade 7 or 8 and just gets in his mileage on that grade, and that works very well for him. So there are ways you can get in grade training, but this is what it takes to get to that baseline level of fitness you're going to need to actually make hiking an enjoyable experience. Let's go ahead and next talk about equipment. Equipment can be a significant barrier to entry for new hikers because it's expensive. Hiking equipment is very expensive, especially the higher end you go, the lighter the gear is, the more performance oriented it is, the more it costs. So this is a challenge that you have to overcome. Fortunately, there's several ways to attack this. There are generally 2 bodies of thought. Number 1 is for a first-time hiker. Piece your pack together. Borrow some stuff. Borrow a lot of stuff. You might have a few things yourself already that you can piece together. But basically put a full kit together, without spending a lot of money, I think is the bottom line here. And that way you can go out, try it out, see if multi-day hiking is really for you. And if it's not, you're no worse for the wear because you just return the gear you borrowed and life goes on. But this can be a double-edged sword, as I learned personally the hard way the first time I went out on the AT. I took that path, borrowed some gear, and it was borrowed gear. Some of it was past its service life, had holes in it. The pack that I ended up using was not a true hiking pack. It was more of a mountaineering pack, and it was very heavy, especially when it got damp and moist. And so I was fairly miserable a lot of the time, carrying a ton more weight than I would have if I had had better gear. But I made it through, ended up having a great time, and certainly came away with the notion that hiking was something I was going to want to do going forward. So I went out and I spent the money to get really good quality gear. And then the next time I went out on the Appalachian Trail, it was a completely different experience. The pack was comfortable, it was super lightweight, made for hiking. All the gear I had was lightweight, maybe not what people would consider ultra lightweight hiking gear, but very good lightweight hiking gear. And it was such a much more enjoyable experience. So that second path of the two bodies of thought is go out and buy your gear. You can do this in a more budget-friendly manner. Look for sales. I sourced a lot of my new hiking gear during Black Friday sales from various locations, Amazon, hiking companies, other places online, and I actually saved quite a bit of money over what I might have spent at regular price. You can go check out REI, and REI tends to be expensive, but they do have sales as well for various seasons. Spring, and when the hiking season kicks off, they'll have sales. So these are the two bodies of thought for equipment, and you just have to decide which one is the best path for you. My ultimate recommendation would be, if you're really on the fence about this multi-day hiking experience, go ahead and try to piece a pack together. And finally, let's talk about safety. Safety can be a concern, can be a challenge or a barrier to entry for new hikers. Mainly because, not that hiking is unsafe necessarily, but mainly because people fear the unknown and they just haven't done it before. So they're scared of what could happen to them out there. And these are legitimate concerns, but with some planning and some awareness, you go out there and you'll be perfectly fine. So I think there's three main areas that we need to talk about for safety. Number one is safety from other people. And I think this is the one that gets people the most, is they read accounts online, various blogs and whatnot, about some deranged lunatic that a solo female hiker or a couple of female hikers encountered on a trail somewhere. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, probably a lot more rare than people will make it out to be. I've been out to the AT several times. I've hiked all over the United States. My buddy and I last fall hiked the entire Swiss-French border on the Hexatrek Trail. And all those, probably thousands of miles at this point, I've never once come across anyone with whom I've had cross words. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. Everybody I've ever encountered out on the trails has been super nice, friendly, welcoming, helpful. It's a culture thing, and people on the trail take care of each other. So that's it's not to say you shouldn't take precautions. If you're a solo female hiker, you definitely want people to know where you are. You definitely want to have a capability to defend yourself, whether it's some mace or bear spray. I wouldn't carry an actual firearm. We have done that before, and it just ends up being dead weight that you don't need in your pack. But maybe a collapsible baton. Really, there's a lot of self-defense measures out there that are lightweight, less than lethal type measures you can carry on your person to protect yourself. But I think all in all, the threat of from human beings is actually pretty low. The second safety concern to be aware of course, is injury. Hiking is a physical sport. There's uneven, there's rough terrain, there's climbs, there's descents, the trail's muddy, things get wet and slippery, injuries happen. And so you need to have a kind of a basic awareness of what could happen to you and what you need to carry in terms of first aid. Blisters can happen. You need to have some moleskin or whatever you would need to mitigate blisters. Carry some tape in case you had to tape a twisted ankle. And now you want to also do these things in a weight conscious manner. Don't carry an entire roll of tape, but unfurl 2 or 3 feet, roll it up, carry that. If you're going to carry some ointment, some antibiotic ointment, squeeze some from the tube into a small Ziploc bag, which you can carry along so that keeps your weight down, while also ensuring that you have a basic load of first aid supplies. I carry a Garmin Messenger, which is a little device that allows you to use your smartphone to communicate via satellite. And the other great feature about the Garmin Messenger is it has a SOS summons button. So if you hit the SOS button, the Garmin Emergency Reaction Center can help you get assistance if you need it. Beware, there may be significant cost involved with that, but at least if you have a messenger, you have that capability when you're off the cell network. And so these are just some examples of what you can do to mitigate or plan for injury. And then the third and final safety concern you may have on the trail is from critters, animals, insects. Whenever I'm going out on the trail, I spray all my gear with permethrin, which is widely available at any sporting goods store or from Amazon. Permethrin repels chiggers, ticks, and mosquitoes. You want to spray this into the tub of your tent or on the tent screen to help keep those mosquitoes and other insects out of your tent. Nothing more miserable than chiggers and ticks in your sleeping bag with you. And then there's bear safety or other animals. Whenever you're going to go hiking, you should always be cognizant of bears. And it's not that they attack humans. It's rare, it does happen. But they will come after your food. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's what they want. So you have to understand how to plan for the presence of bears, understand the local regulations. I'm going out to the AT week after next, and there's a certain stretch where hard canister bear containers are required. And so I'll have to decide if I'm going to carry my bear canister or just walk on through that area and get to the back side of it. Even if you're not going to use a hard-sided container, you're definitely going to want to learn how to do a bear hang. And I'll do a separate video where I'll provide a kind of a basic load of new hiker equipment, including the bear hanging kit that I use. And so that's all for today's video. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you next time.